6. HMS Audacious. Just off the coast of Ireland, in the Atlantic Ocean, forgotten shipwrecks litter the seafloor like discarded toys. Some of these ships date back to the First World War and were sunk by torpedoes and mines. Included in the wreckage are merchant vessels, submarines, and ocean liners. One of the vessels is the HMS Audacious. On October 16, 1914, the Royal Navy's 2nd Battle Squadron was sent to the western coast of Scotland. They departed for gunnery practice off of Tory Island, and on the morning of October 27th, the Audacious was struck by a mine at 8:45 a.m. Assuming they were hit by a torpedo, the submarine warning was triggered, which forced them to abandon the smaller ships behind to provide assistance. The engine room and outer compartments adjoining it flooded immediately. After failed attempts to successfully tow the 597-foot behemoth, the Audacious heeled, paused, then capsized after taking water for 12 hours. The Titanic's sister ship, the White Star ocean liner RMS Olympic, was able to rescue all but one unlucky soul. Darren Norton, an Irish chemist, was fortunate to experience the wrecks on a dive. He confirmed that most of the wrecks lie beyond the reach of recreational divers. Historical England believes there are about 40,000 shipwrecks around the coast of the British Isles, still waiting to be discovered. 5. SS Eastland. Commissioned by the Michigan Steamship Company in 1902, the Eastland made her inaugural voyage in 1903. With a hint of foreshadowing, its first inaugural season did not go smooth sailing. On July 27th, the Eastland struck the laid-up tugboat George W. Gardner at a dock near Lake Street Bridge. While only taking minor damages herself, George W. Gardner sank. Jumping to July of 1915, the Eastland and 4 other Great Lakes steamers were tasked with chartering employees from Western Electric Company's Hawthorne Works in Cicero, Illinois, to a company picnic located in Michigan City, Indiana. The Eastland was so top-heavy that she required special restrictions concerning the number of passengers it could carry. Since the Titanic sank a mere 3 years prior, the Seamen's Act had been passed. The Seamen's Act required a full set of lifeboats to be retrofitted on passenger vessels. This additional weight made Eastland more dangerous by taking on more weight, and some argued that other great ships would suffer from this problem as well. Regardless, the act was signed into law. At 6:30 a.m. in the morning of July 24th, passengers began to board the Eastland on the south bank of the Chicago River. By 7:10 a.m., the ship's capacity of 2,572 passengers was reached. With so many passengers on the packed ship standing on the upper decks, it began to lean slightly away from the dock. After futile attempts to stabilize the ship, it only took 20 minutes for the Eastland to lean sharply, then roll to its side. Nearly half of it was submerged. The cool and damp weather had brought many passengers below deck to warm themselves, leading to hundreds of passengers being trapped inside by the water. Others were unfortunately crushed by heavy furniture during the rollover. In spite of the tragedy only being 20 feet from the dock and assistance from the nearby vessel Kenosha, a total of 844 passengers and 4 crew members perished in the disaster. 4. USS Saratoga. The USS Saratoga was the 5th U.S. Navy ship named after the 1777 Battle of Saratoga, an important victory during the Revolutionary War. She was originally authorized in 1916 as a Lexington-class battlecruiser. However, after suspending construction, she was reclassified as an aircraft carrier before entering service in 1928. The ship's flight deck was 866 feet 2 inches long, comprised of teak wood, and was designed to carry 78 aircraft, including 36 bombers. However, these numbers increased when the Navy adopted the practice of securing spare aircraft in the unused spaces at the top of the hangar. USS Saratoga participated in a number of battles including World War II, the Guadalcanal Campaign, and the Battle of the Eastern Solomons. While under repair after being torpedoed on 11 January 1942, Saratoga received a 7-foot 2-inch bulge on the starboard side of her hull. The primary intent was to increase the ship's buoyancy, allow her full fuel capacity to be utilized, and to increase stability. it was also used to store additional fuel oil. Operation Crossroads was a test conducted at Bikini Atoll and hoped to evaluate the effect of atomic bombs on ships. Before going to Bikini, Saratoga sailed from San Francisco. She departed from Pier 33 and headed out the Golden Gate on May 1, 1946. Operation Crossroads began with an air burst test on July 1st. Saratoga survived with only minor damage, including the igniting of the teak flight deck. The second test on July 25th was an underwater blast and exploded about 400 yards under the carrier. The detonation caused the vessel to lift out of the water, knocking everything off its flight deck. Recently, the submerged wreckage, which lies 50 feet below the surface, has become a destination for scuba divers. Is it better to test atomic bombs on our own ships in a controlled environment, or save them until we absolutely need to use them to limit radiation exposure? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. 3. MV Doña Paz. Built in 1963, the MV Doña Paz was built by Onomichi Zosen of Hiroshima, Japan, and was originally named Himeyuri Maru. When she traveled through Japanese waters, her passenger capacity was 608. The vessel was sold to Sulpicio Lines in October 1975 and was renamed Don Sulpicio, serving the Manila to Cebu sector as her primary route. The ship became one of the company's 2 flagship vessels. On June 5, 1979, Doña Paz was devastated by fire on her usual Manila-Cebu journey. All 1,164 aboard were rescued, but the vessel was beached and declared a total loss. The wreckage was repurchased and repaired by Sulpicio Lines. Structural changes were made, and she returned to service under the new name of Doña Paz. The Doña Paz was reassigned to serve the Manila to Tacloban route, making voyages twice a week until the time of her sinking. Doña Paz departed from Tacloban for Manila at 6:30 a.m. on December 20, 1987. The vessel was due in Manila at 4 a.m. the next day, and it was reported that it last made radio contact at about 8 p.m. Subsequent reports indicated that she did not have a radio. At about 10:30 p.m., while most of the passengers slept, Doña Paz collided with MT Vector. MT was carrying 1,050,000 liters of gasoline and other petroleum-based products. Vector's cargo ignited upon collision, which started a fire that spread to the Doña Paz. One of these survivors recounted that the flames spread rapidly throughout the ship and that the surrounding sea was also on fire. To make matters worse, no life vests could be found, and the crewmen were running around in panic alongside passengers. The passengers were forced to jump off the ship, with some using suitcases as makeshift flotation devices and swimming among charred bodies in flaming waters around the ship. Doña Paz sank within 2 hours. MS Don Claudio witnessed the explosion of the 2 ships and found the survivors about an hour later. In all, only 26 survivors were rescued, with 24 being passengers of the Doña Paz. Manifest showed Doña Paz was carrying 1,583 passengers at the time of its demise. No Doña Paz crew member survived. Most of those rescued received burns from jumping into the flaming water. Reportedly, it took about 8 hours for maritime authorities to learn about the accident and another 8 hours to begin search and rescue operations. 2. RMS Carpathia. The RMS Carpathia was built by CS Swan & Hunter for the Cunard Steamship Company to operate between Liverpool and Boston. Construction began on September 10, 1901, with a voyage from the River Tyne to the River Mersey between April 22 and 25, 1903. At the time of her launch, she was described as being 558 feet long and weighing in at 13,500 tons. The vessel was designed with 4 complete steel decks, a bridge deck, saloon, cabins, and had a capacity of 1,700 passengers. Despite being designed for second and third class passengers, the Carpathia's interior was quite comfortable and set a standard for the time. The dining saloon was said to be decorated in gold and cream and was capped with a stained glass dome. Although she lacked the speed and grand luxury of express liners, she quickly developed a reputation as a comfortable ship and became popular with immigrants and tourists alike. Carpathia was updated in 1905, which increased her capacity to 2,550 passengers. Carpathia is best known for saving survivors from the Titanic. On the night of April 15, 1912, witness operator Harold Cotton had missed previous messages from the Titanic. When his shift ended at midnight, he continued to stand post before bed. At 12:11 a.m., a message was sent to the Titanic. The response was a distress signal stating they'd struck an iceberg and needed urgent assistance. It took the Carpathia 3.5 hours to arrive at the Titanic's location, which was about 67 miles from his position. Arriving on scene at about 4 a.m., an hour and a half after the Titanic sank, claiming 1,500 lives. Over the next 4.5 hours, the vessel took on the 705 survivors from Titanic's lifeboats. The crew was awarded multiple medals for their rescue work, including bronze medals, officer silver medals, and a silver cup and gold medal awarded to Captain Rostron. In the First World War, Carpathia was used to transport American expeditionary forces and Canadians to Europe. Among her passengers was Frank Buckles, who would become the last surviving American veteran of the Great War. Carpathia sailed from Liverpool to Boston in a convoy carrying 57 passengers on July 15, 1918. On the morning of July 17th, the convoy was cut in half, and she continued west with 6 other ships, being the largest in the convoy. An incoming torpedo was spotted, but the attempts to dodge it were unsuccessful. The impact was followed by a second which penetrated the engine room, killing 5 crew members and voiding any attempts to escape. When the battle died down and Carpathia settled, the order was given to abandon ship. 218 of the 223 aboard were rescued. She sank at 11 a.m., about an hour and a half after the torpedo struck. At the time of her sinking, she was on the 5th Cunard steamship sunk in as many weeks. The wreckage was discovered by Keith Jessup on September 9, 1999. 1. Endurance. Built under supervision of master wood shipbuilder Christian Jacobson, the Endurance's original purpose was as an ice-capable steam yacht. It provided luxurious accommodations for small tourist and hunting parties in the Arctic. The 144-foot yacht was launched on December 17, 1912, and included 10 passenger cabins, a smoking room, a spacious dining saloon, and even a darkroom so passengers could develop photographs. Although her hull looked like that of any other vessel of comparable size, it was not. Endurance was designed with very sturdy construction to withstand polar conditions, with twice as many frames as normal, and the frames being of double thickness. The bow was designed to meet the ice head-on and had been given special attention. Each timber had been made from a single oak tree, chosen for its shape so that its natural shape followed the curve of the ship's design. At the time of her launch in 1912, Endurance was arguably among the strongest wooden ships ever built. Built for the ice, her hull was considered by many of her crew to be far too rounded for the open ocean. She was not intended to be frozen into heavy pack ice and wasn't designed to rise out of a crush. It was observed on the expedition that she instead tended to resist being crushed, and instead the ice cracked to relieve the pressure. On December 5, 1914, Endurance sailed from Grytviken on the island of South Georgia, heading for the southern regions of the Weddell Sea. After nearly a year of pushing its way through ice packs, in the late afternoon of October 24, 1915, the ship was disabled by waves, pinning her between 2 icebergs. The stern slammed into a large mass of ice, tearing the stem post away from the hull. Not long after, the bow planking was compromised, causing flooding in both the engine room and the forward hold. Neither the manual pumps nor the main man-powered deck pumps could help against the rising water. The footplates to the engine room would no longer sit in place, as the side of the ship was bowing inward by up to 6 inches. The ship was abandoned on October 27th, and they established a camp about 2 miles from the remains. On November 13th, the icebergs were hit by pressure waves, squeezing and crushing the hull. As more pressure waves hit the ice on November 21st, within the span of a minute, the Endurance was lifted as the icebergs shifted towards one another. As the pressure waves faded, the channel opened back up as the vessel was swallowed by the sea. The ice surrounding the spot where the Endurance had sunk closed in once more, demolishing any trace of the wreck. Which of these vessels did you find the most intriguing? Let us know in the comments below, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time for another amazing video. Bye!